This summer, 36 rising high school seniors from Boston have been advancing in creativity, college readiness, and career exploration, thanks to help from Bloomberg Philanthropies. Along with getting paid for Bloomberg Arts internships, the students are helping a number of local arts organizations, including some with a focus on youth development in underserved communities. To tell us about the initiative is the Internship and Program Coordinator for a nonprofit partner with the Boston schools, EdVestors. We'd like to welcome Jeremy Gooden. Thank you very much for being with us, Jeremy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Jeremy, what's it been like for these rising seniors to have an opportunity to go out, get away from all this isolation over the past year plus and sort of get engaged in creativity and learning?
It's been fantastic. In 2020, the program was completely virtual. It was a success then. But in 2021, we've implemented a hybrid model. So young people have the opportunity to engage in arts and culture activities on Fridays in person. We visited the Institute of Contemporary Art, the Museum of Science, Powell Arts Center, and other incredible communities. So seeing the young people and engaging with them in person has been a great shift from last year.
It sounds, just from what you said here, as if this is an interesting mix of arts organizations too. We have the big names that people throughout the whole state might be familiar with, but at the same time, we have neighborhood organizations that are focused in a different way. So can you tell us a little bit about that mix?
Yeah, sure thing. So we're working with about 20 different arts organizations, places like Actors Shakespeare Project, Abilities Dance Boston, Artisans Asylum, Ballet Rocks, Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center and Powell Arts Center, Boston Landmarks Orchestra, Community Music Center of Boston, the Huntington Theater Company. The list goes on and on and on. And we really just wanted to provide a plethora of different opportunities for young people, some of them who identify as artists and some that might not. So exposing them to different art sector career fields is what we're really all about in our BAI program.
I know this is going to differ from one place to another, but can you give me an example of the kind of things that these students have been doing with these internships?
Great question. So young people have helped work on different campaigns for different social media efforts for these organizations if they're interested in social media or graphic design. Some of them have created logos for organizations and certain efforts. One of our BAI program alums, Sophia Thomas, they created a public art tour walk in the Latin Quarter in Jamaica Plain and provided voiceovers for different art installments in the Jamaica Plain area. So members of the community can see their neighborhood in a different light and really appreciate the incredible art that is right in front of them.
What does that involve for the student? Because on the one hand, you might have a student who grew up in the neighborhood and didn't notice things right around the corner. All of a sudden, they have this internship and they're paying attention in a different way. What does that do for them?
Great question. So I think the young people really get exposed to different opportunities around them, not just in their neighborhood, but in surrounding neighborhoods as well, and arts organizations that they might pass every day, but don't get the opportunity to interact with. So we really encourage young people to continue to engage in these organizations in their communities after the programs, because it's such a collaborative process. Interns are working with adults at these organizations, but also their peers who might be working at the same organizations. So we encourage them to continue to contribute to their communities and to these organizations, because that's how we're going to continue to feed this art sector in Boston.
What does this do for the organizations? And I know some of them are very much in touch with their surrounding neighborhoods, but others maybe not as much. So how does this help them?
So many of our organizations have strong youth development backgrounds, and they love working with young people. So continuing to have young people work at these internships gives them an opportunity to continue to engage with young folks and continue to feed their programs. We also provide a stipend for each intern that works at an arts organization. So organizations can host up to 4 interns.
I imagine there are also organizations that might need more connection to people from Boston's neighborhoods, maybe more exposure, maybe deeper understanding. Does it help in that way too?
I believe it does. I think exposing different organizations to young people who might be outside of their community. So this program serves Boston Public High School students, but if you're not in a certain area, but you end up working at that work site, you might get exposed to a different community to a different organization, the same way that an organization might get exposed to a different school community as well.
Well, one of the other goals of this program is college readiness for the students. How does that help them exactly?
So interns engage in College Advising Corps Boston University workshops where they get an opportunity to ask questions to college advisors about student life, about tuition, about applying for college. They also engage in writing workshops with 826 Boston, who provides one-to-one tutoring for college essays, scholarship essays. And if the young person has already graduated from high school, they can work on personal essay statements or portfolio statements. So we really want them to continue to do goal setting for their life after high school too.
Of course, another factor here is the experience, almost a personal experience for these students, that they're relating to adults in a different way than would normally happen in a school setting, and vice versa. What does that do for them?
Yeah, the worksite supervisors really value youth voice. So when a young person enters the workspace and they're a part of the team and they are learning things, but they're really a part of the team that they're joining, and their voices are really valued. And I think that does a lot for them in establishing their communication skills, their self-advocacy skills, and their ability to work in a team, not with just their peers on school projects, but with adults and their peers on worksite projects too.
I want to ask about the career messaging involved here, because I think in broad strokes, a lot of students these days are getting the message that if you want something rewarding and stable, go into the STEM fields. The arts, creative sector, that's a little more unclear. So what's the message that students can get from this about making the best of the opportunity in the arts sector?
The message that young people can get from this is that the skills that you'll learn in the arts sector are transferable skills that you can use in any field, whether you stick with us in Boston's arts sector and beyond or not, or if you're joining a different field, you can use those communication skills, you can use those creativity skills and apply them to whatever career path you choose.
I want to ask about how the students get picked for this, because it seems this ought to be a very attractive program, maybe with some competition. What was the case?
Right. So in collaboration with the Boston Private Industry Council's Pick Career Specialists, we do an interview process with young people where we have them meet with different organizations and worksite supervisors from those organizations. And we just ask them questions about their interest, their experiences. For many of our young people, this will be their first interview process and their first work experience. So it really is about learning, but also encouraging them to share their voice as well. So it's an interview process that we do with multiple work sites that we're partnering with.
I want to ask you one more thing. It's not just about this particular program, but I think it might apply to a number of things that EdVestors is involved in. I think one of the goals is to help students stay on track by getting them more engaged in education. What's the main takeaway from programs like this as far as student engagement?
Yeah, I think one of the main takeaways is self-advocacy. Teaching young people that there's a network of adults and young people that care about you, that want to contribute to your success, but those are resources that you have to go out and get. So really encouraging them to be curious, to be confident, and to really go for what they want and set clear goals for themselves and realize that there's a whole network of people that are ready and willing to support you.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to tell us about the program.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.
That was Jeremy Gooden from EdVestors. We'll have more news in just a moment.